Hello everyone, I'm Ivan from Splash Industries, and today I'd like to tell you a little bit more about how we're building autonomous patrol boats and how this technology, which is primarily a defense-focused technology, can be used for some really cool applications in ocean research. So first, a little bit of context. So my amazing co-founder is here as well, Marcel, give us a wave. We met all the way back in middle school, started our first company in high school, ran that for 7 years, and we, after that, started Splash. So the premise here is building autonomous patrol boats for national security. So think applications, actually, let me mute this real quick. Oh.
It sounds great.
Either turn it up or turn it down. Yeah, so think applications such as patrolling maritime borders, intercepting drug traffickers, enforcing keep-out areas in harbors, so harbor security, and of course a number of military applications as well, but that's something we talk about all the time. So today I thought we'd talk about really about the potential for unmanned vessels in ocean exploration. So that's kind of another passion of mine. So I've been doing marine robotics projects since I was 16. I really find this space fascinating because every single time you lower, say, a camera to a depth below 500 meters, you are really the very first person on Earth to see that little part of the ocean. You really don't know what you're going to see. That to me is pretty exciting. And there's many ways that people kind of convey the point that we know very little about oceans. One of the common ones that I hear all the time is that we know more about the surface of the moon than the depths of our oceans, and that is certainly true, but kind of to illustrate that, I thought I'd bring up another example. So here's just a screenshot from Google Maps of the area around Hawaii. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to show up too well on this screen, but of course, you can see that we can see some basic bathymetric imagery there. So ridges, we can see underwater mountains there. And if you look very closely, you will also see some darker lines, these darker striations. So if we actually zoom in by a factor of 10, you'll see that those are higher resolution tracks, so scans of the ocean's bottom. The other areas are much lower resolution, so even when we go to a scale where this red line is 20 miles, and that is still very zoomed out, you can see that the data starts falling apart. Now, if we go ahead and zoom in even more to a finer scale of 2 miles, indicated by the red line once again, which is not really that fine of a scale at all, you can see that even the highest resolution data that we have, at least from this data set, is starting to fall apart as well. So really, this is the same as having 10 city blocks represented by 1 pixel. That's really inadequate if you want to, say, find an object on the seafloor, such as, say, a shipwreck. And really, apart from that, we don't have that much more data. This is as good as we get unless you have spent tens of millions of dollars doing a survey in that specific area, which chances are you haven't, at least in the point I selected there. I guess a little bit of a talk about how we actually get this data. So for the ones of you who already know all of this, sorry, just going to quickly recap. For the lowest resolution data, usually satellite bathymetry is used. So essentially that's actually taking satellite measurements to the surface of the ocean and kind of estimating the depth based on the deformation of the actual ocean surface. Now, this is incredibly inaccurate, and you're getting, well, very large errors in the actual measurements, and very low resolution. So once again, not enough to detect, say, a shipwreck. Next up, the lines, the darker lines that we saw initially, the lines of higher resolution, those are side scan imagery surveys. So kind of similar to LiDAR, except instead of light, you're using acoustic signals. And instead of, say, a Waymo where you have the little LiDAR sensor spinning, you're actually using the forward motion of a vessel outfitted with the side scan sonar as the movement there. So if you put that sort of sensor on a ship, you're able to get really, well, better quality data, but that depends on the depth. This works great when you've got a depth of a few hundred meters, but as you go down, as you get deeper, those tracks do spread out, so once again, you lose data, and you aren't really able to use this tech for much deeper surveys. So for that, you really have to get that sensor a lot closer to the seabed using a towed side-scan sonar. So essentially a torpedo-looking device that you would be towing behind a ship, but that gets incredibly expensive as you have to have a specialized ship, a lot of equipment for that, but that is how you would potentially detect, say, a shipwreck if you were doing a survey of an area. Now, why is this so useful? So actually, we have a little bit of a personal example. When we were building our very first prototype of our unmanned boat, we actually sunk one. We sunk one just off the coast here, so that happened during a totally planned speed test. And we had to kind of get it out of the bay. Marcel rightfully pointed out that leaving a vessel with gasoline is not a good thing in the bay. That is pretty bad. So we, of course, put all of our efforts to recover it. And in order to get a diver out there to get it recovered, we first had to locate it exactly. So we knew roughly where it was to a range of around 10 to 15 meters. However, it's so murky out in the bay that really you need to know exactly where something is in order to recover it. So we actually used a side-scan sonar to, we spent a few hours surveying that area. We ultimately were able to find it, so that's actually the screenshot from the side-scan sonar, and even at a depth of around 5 meters, that only shows up as this little tiny shadow. So that's the entire vessel, which is, for context, around 11 feet in length. After that point, we were able to get a diver out there, and we got it recovered without any spills, so great day for us. Of course, this tech is incredibly useful for finding shipwrecks and, say, aircraft crashes, but it gets incredibly expensive because, of course, you are paying quite a lot for a large ship, and if this is far off coast, you really do need quite a large ship for that. Now, just about some other technology. So if you needed a closer look, say you have used your side-scan sonar to locate a wreck and you want to go down there to either pick something up or get live video footage, as of course the side-scan sonar only gives you a point cloud of that area, you would be using a ROV, so essentially an underwater drone. Here's us actually deploying a little blue ROV from Blue Robotics, and of course for much deeper operations like most of the cool footage you see from the depths, it is recovered using ROVs. You are getting into very expensive price tags for every hour of operation. So in fact, we were talking to an oil and gas company and just seeing what sort of prices they have for inspecting oil rig pylons. And they were quoting $2 million just for the mobilization fee. So that is for you to leave the port with your specialized vessel, and a few $100,000 per day to operate it. So we're talking about crazy, crazy costs. And I'll get into why we believe unmanned surface vessels can actually get that cost significantly down. But apart from that, these are some photos I actually took with a Blue ROV 7 years ago at this point in the Mediterranean. Here's a cool looking sea urchin as well as a cuttlefish. Now, there are cheaper options. So deep sea drop cams, bathymetric landers are essentially cameras, robotic cameras that go down to the seabed, film for a preset amount of time, and then float back up to the surface. The good thing about these is that they're a lot cheaper to deploy, but you also don't get any live feedback from there. With an ROV, of course, you are physically tethered to it, so you are able to remote control it, in effect. Here, you're just hoping that it lands somewhere cool and that you're able to capture some good imagery. Now, this is great if you're observing wildlife. These are some pictures that I got from a drop cam that I've been building for quite a long time at this point, off the coast of LA, so that's just a squid at around 700 meters. Now, you'll notice that a recurring trend with all these technologies is that it's really expensive to deploy them. So even with a drop cam, even a small drop cam, such as the one I built there, you're still hiring a boat, you're going out if you're wanting to survey something hundreds of miles out. Of course, you don't really want to be on a little Boston whaler, you want to have a proper ship. When you have a proper ship, of course, you need the crew, and it gets incredibly expensive. With unmanned surface vessels, such as the ones that we are developing, we see this really as an enabling technology to make a lot of this research a lot cheaper. So imagine a drop cam being dropped off 200 miles offshore or 500 miles offshore using our vessels. And that's a lot cheaper because you don't need to have a crew, you're not paying for people's time, or in the case say, of a side-scan sonar survey, once again, you're not paying for the manpower, which makes ocean exploration a lot cheaper and hopefully a lot more prominent. And really, there is so much left to explore, so I briefly wanted to mention, if you've been following the news, around 10 days ago, the very first footage of a colossal squid was actually filmed in its natural habitat. The actual footage is only of a baby colossal squid. For reference, these animals, actually grow up to be larger than the size of a school bus, which is pretty insane. And no one has actually seen one of these alive in its natural habitat at full size. That's pretty fascinating that the largest invertebrate on Earth we have never seen just alive, swimming around. That's pretty fascinating to me. Of course, on the shipwrecks side of things, there are millions of undiscovered shipwrecks, and yes, it is actually estimated in the billions. Of course, many of them are smaller, probably mostly decomposed shipwrecks, but certainly a lot of things yet to discover. So we're really excited about the ways we're going to be able to use surface vessels, our unmanned surface vessels, for this sort of research. So yeah, thank you.
Does anybody